Hey guys. Okay, so we are hot off the heels of just watching the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Not
So,
everyone.
not everyone. We'll go into that. So, it kind of got us wanting to do a compare and contrast video of that movie plus another popular kids movie that was based off of a video game franchise, and that is Detective Pikachu. So we're gonna have like kind of a lot of interesting thoughts all around because myself, Crystal, and Chuku, we both watched both films.
Yeah.
And OC only watched Sonic, and Scott only watched Detective Pikachu. So,
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to watch Sonic though. I just haven't had the
Yeah,
chance.
Yeah.
I'll
I'm sure
eventually watch
you will.
Detective Pikachu, maybe, probably.
Probably,
Yeah.
probably
Maybe.
until we spoil everything. And then you no longer wanna
And then I
watch
no
it.
longer care.
Yeah.
let's get right into it. Like really quickly, what were you guys' initial thoughts on Sonic for those of us that watched it?
Okay, so Sonic, man. I mean, again, for me, probably being the biggest fan here. I don't know, maybe there's more, but I felt that I was at first really I was cautiously optimistic. Like I knew it wasn't going to be horrible, but at the same time, I didn't expect nothing much from it. Then I was pleasant surprised. Like it still has its flaws, it still has its problems, but it made me more curious and made me hopeful for video game movies in the future, as well as made me more curious in terms of what they're going to do in the future.
Ooh,
for a
interesting.
sequel. So
You're making me want to watch this more.
exactly, I'm selling it. Go watch Sonic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I have the same sentiments basically. I think it was kind of historic the way that they changed the audience perception of this film. The sentiment was very negative in the beginning, and then after they listened to the outcry of everyone hating the original design and after changing it, turning the whole thing into a huge success. That's so interesting to me. And then what came out of it is just like a fun kids movie, and I enjoy kids movies. I want to
Yeah.
see more like it.
I definitely enjoyed it. I have only seen Sonic out of these two films, and after watching it, I enjoyed it all the way through. Jim Carrey's performance really stood out to me and made me love it. And then Sonic, it was Sonic. It made it feel like Sonic. It
Yeah,
made
great-
it feel like this character. That I
Great
grew
voice
up
acting
with.
by Ben
Yeah.
Schwartz.
Yeah. I guess we should talk about Detective Pikachu. So I guess what do we all generally think about Detective Pikachu?
I thought it was a fun movie.
Okay, you go, dude.
I don't think it was necessarily like the best movie I watched that year. When did it come out?
It came right after Endgame.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember.
basically.
That was hard to follow. Yikes.
Yeah, it was entertaining throughout, and I don't think it was necessarily like a very super impressive story. I felt like it was somewhat predictable,
Hmm.
but that's only because you have hindsight. Sometimes you just say that.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the movie overall.
Mhm. Yeah, I didn't hate it either. I love Pokemon. I think Pokemon is more dear to me, closer to my heart. So I really enjoyed seeing all of the animated or like 3D animated Pokemon. I thought they were really cute. I love their designs. I thought it was unique. It wasn't like completely like a copy of the 2D animation, but it was cool.
Yeah, that's
I
one.
liked seeing
That's
that.
one thing I loved about that movie was the visuals. I thought all of it was really well done.
Yeah, I felt like a kid again too.
Yeah.
Like seeing like the huge Torterra scene, that was kind of cool. And then seeing all of my favorite Pokemon, all the ones that we recognize. But I agree. I think the protagonist was kind of weak.
Yeah.
I don't think they didn't sell him on me, but they kind of took a weird thing and made it really great, which was Ryan Reynolds' voice as Pikachu.
Mhm.
I thought I was going to hate it. I was like kind of a hater in the beginning too of the whole concept,
Mhm.
but being in there and watching it, I thought it was great. It was hilarious, and Pikachu was still cute despite having like a grown man voice.
yeah. So I recently watched it after watching Sonic films, so I kind of already had this comparison going on. I definitely again enjoyed it for what it was. I mean, I'm not the biggest Pokemon fan, but I grew up watching the shows. I played some of the games. I felt again the main character was sort of the weakest aspect. Like he wasn't bad. Like he did his job, but at the same time he wasn't really like engaging. And when Pikachu came in, it was more engaging and stuff. I feel like comparing the two movies, I still feel like, and this is why I kind of bring this argument or why we bring up the subject, because Sonic's considered the best video game movie. And I don't know, watching Detective Pikachu, I kind of like the creativity more because although like it wasn't really like it didn't really, in terms of movie standpoint, it doesn't stand out. But in terms of video game, I feel like it was more, or at least in terms of Pokemon in general, it was more. I feel like it was slightly more faithful than Sonic. Like Sonic,
Interesting.
in terms of characterization, the character of Sonic is definitely there.
Mhm.
Eggman's there, and they have Easter eggs. But other than that, again, I didn't like Pokemon. You really feel like you're in that world. Sonic, I just felt like it was Sonic being into our world.
You bring up an interesting point, and like now that you do bring it up, I kind of agree because I think the world building in Detective Pikachu was really like they went for it. They really
Yeah.
did. I don't think it was perfect, but the fact that they just went for it and you
Yeah.
saw a Pokemon in every corner doing different roles, like seeing who was it? Machamp, like
Yeah,
being like
exactly,
the kind of
like
traffic
that. Yeah.
director, and then seeing like
Yeah.
a big napping Snorlax like on a bench, like that's where you would imagine him in
Yeah.
our world. I
Yeah.
think that was
I love that about that movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
impressive to me.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, so I haven't seen Detective Pikachu, so I remember based on the trailers that I saw, like that it was the approach of the world of Pokemon, basically.
Yeah.
So I can see what you guys are saying from that. But my question to you guys is, so the whole idea of a Detective Pikachu movie. I understand that Detective Pikachu is a video game, but it's not classic Pokemon.
Yeah.
So do you feel like they did a good or made a good choice in going that route as opposed to the classic Pokemon route of like
Gym leaders.
right?
It's hard to
Elite
say.
Four.
I honestly, in terms, because again, we're talking about movies.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this was a risk that is actually, to me, it was like it was a safe risk, and I think it was a smart risk because
Yeah.
I feel that like to go the classic, like to do all that Pokemon gym leader and all that stuff, like that's a big risk. Like
That's really ambitious. I think what they did already was really ambitious with the world building.
yeah,
But to introduce like training and trainer battles, I think they didn't want to touch it at all because they even show some of it
yeah,
in this world, but it's illegal,
yeah, exactly.
which is a little strange.
Which is
But
funny.
I can see why they did that. I think
Yeah.
Wait,
we-
was it illegal for tournaments to do it? I thought they had tournaments that did it. Or
they
no?
just
It was underground. That's what I remember.
no, it was underground.
It was all underground when they were doing all those fights and stuff. In fact,
Like
I thought
Pokemon?
I thought I remembered a scene where they were just showing like a tournament of people battling, but I'm not sure.
No,
I mean,
it's-
I remember underground battles. That's all I remember.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all illegal.
Was
They-
it treated
Pokemon,
like dog fights and stuff?
Basically, but
they're in a cage. I guess that's kind of strange.
basically, but then the audience wasn't just humans. It was also Pokemon watching as well.
The Pokemon,
So it's
they're
like an MMA match.
Kind of.
yeah, their purpose is to be your companion,
Yeah.
Okay.
basically, and like they match
Yeah.
your personality, and they're supposed to
Yeah.
like be with you the whole time.
Mm.
That's kind of like a part that's kind of integral to the story. To be honest, remember
Yeah.
Chuku? It's like and Scott. It's the whole thing is like the antagonist is trying to kind of take advantage of that relationship
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the Pokemon, and essentially like he wants everyone to become their Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange. I know it's like more true to the game, right? That's kind of what happens in the game, and they want to stop it. Is it?
I don't
can't-
remember any.
I
I never
can't
played the
confirm.
Detective
We don't
Pikachu.
have
I never
the
played
fact
Detective
checker
Pikachu
here
either
yet.
at all, so I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that.
We need a fact checker.
But
But yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is that like for this story, it didn't make sense. Is the
Mhm.
main thing.
Mm.
I think
But-
that for both movies, it seems to me like they chose where they wanted to stay true to the original material.
yeah.
So in Sonic, they definitely stayed true with as far as like the character of Sonic.
yeah,
And even and to some like the video game feel kind of came in at the final battle for me,
yeah.
where it looked like this is
Yeah.
Sonic video games right
It
here.
is, especially Eggman destroying, the cars.
Yeah.
By the way, rest in peace to the people who were destroyed.
Oh man.
But
I really need to watch this movie.
But
Because when you guys say stay true to the character, whenever I think about the character of Sonic, I think of Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2.
okay,
Those are like my two go-to games when I think about Sonic.
really,
Yeah.
I guess this is hard for me because I guess I know Sonic, or at least know a lot of IP. I guess I think when I think of Sonic's character, I think of like maybe Sonic Unleash or maybe Sonic Colors or Generations. That's what I think of him.
Okay.
But as far as I guess, because I've watched the movie, yeah, it's the difference between him and let's just say it's like Sonic's origin story. Let's just say before Sonic was with Sonic Adventure, how would he act?
Gotcha.
So that's the best way
Sonic
to describe
Adventure
Stupid.
and Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic was a badass, cool
He
ass
is.
like
He
hedgehog.
is. He is. He is. He is. He is.
He's
but-
a cool ass
Yeah,
hedgehog.
he is. He is a badass hedgehog in those Sonic games as well. He's
Yeah.
like he's cocky. He's always making
I think
jokes.
he's funny at some points and he's humorous, but I think more so he was really cool.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
one he's
we
not
definitely
cool.
get the more funny.
Well, he's
aspect.
He's
more,
comical in this
Yeah.
one.
He's more. Yeah, he's more. Yeah, definitely more comical. But then again, like I said, it's the origin story. So it's
It
like
is.
it's about
very-
him becoming
mhm.
cool.
He actually like discovers his powers.
Yeah,
in this
basically.
one.
Okay.
That's kind of
Okay.
what it
Not to
is.
spoil it,
Oh, I
but
need to watch
it's in
this
the
movie.
beginning. It's in the very
Yeah, you need to
beginning.
watch
Don't
this
worry.
movie. The movie
But I see what you're saying, Chuku. It's more like in this one, the world building is like on a smaller scale because it feels like he's like, even though it's part of the story, he's like more transplanted
Yes.
into
yeah.
our
Whereas,
planet.
right,
And it
that
feels
brings me
like he's
back to-
transplanted into the
Yeah,
universe
right.
Yeah.
as if he was just like written in there.
And
Yeah.
that brings me back to the previous. So Sonic chose to stay true to the character of Sonic, whereas Detective Pikachu chose to stay true to the character of the world. But they did the Detective Pikachu, which is a specific video game reference, but is not the true Pikachu character, as far as what people know.
Yeah, yeah. But I guess this goes to the question though, is like, so when we think of a video game movie, because we're judging it based off two merits, right? We got the movie merits, which is like the cinematography, the story, all that stuff. And then we got the video game merits where it's
Right.
like the lore, the I guess you can say the callbacks or, the
Easter eggs.
Easter egg stuff like that.
Yeah.
So could we, based off what we've seen from both, I guess for us, both of those movies, could we, I guess, how do we define it being a good video game movie?
That's
How
a good
do we
question,
define that?
Because
Well, first of all, it needs to be a good movie.
right. So in the case of that discussion, that question, the good movie like has to be the ultimate standard. And if we're judging it based on that, then its adherence to the original source material doesn't mean very much. But it's also a risk to go too far away from the source material.
Yeah.
In a certain extent, because it feels like it can have a feeling of there's no point in calling it Sonic if it's not really.
Yeah,
Sonic.
exactly. It'd be a false
True.
dichotomy,
True.
basically.
It's just sort of like a skin that they
Yeah.
placed. But I do feel that number one, it needs to be a good movie. If we want to consider it a good video game movie, one, it has to be a good movie, first of all.
Yeah.
And second, it has to stay true to a good amount of the source material. I feel like as long as they don't break certain characterizations of the main characters that we know and love,
Yeah.
then they're still that character.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's like it's interesting because you have, I don't know if I was gonna bring an example, but I realized that I'm the only one who really loves Man of Steel.
I mean, sure,
I
why
love
not?
Man of
Sure,
Steel.
why not?
We've talked
Whatever, it
about
doesn't
this.
matter.
But like where they had Henry Cavill's Superman kill Zod at the end.
Yeah.
A lot of
Right,
people were
right.
angry with that because they were saying it's a deviation from the character. But I felt like that was like the perfect thing for him to do. And so it was a smart deviation from the character for the sake of the movie. I
Yeah.
felt like if they had a situation, if they like contrived a situation in that movie where Zod stays alive, I don't think it would have been as satisfying for me.
yeah, I think in terms of the situation and plot, because that matters a lot, right?
Sometimes deviating from the original source material, it can work if it's done well, and it can go awry if it's not done well.
Yeah.
That's true. And it was confusing for Detective Pikachu because now that we're talking about it and I'm getting my memory going, I don't think training was illegal. Because remember, he said his father was a great trainer
I thought
before
before
he became a detective. Yeah, and that's just kind of like a confusing thing that I think
Yeah.
got lost
Yeah.
in like
Okay.
That's
in
why-
the original
Yeah.
story they were trying to make.
Yeah, that's why I thought I remembered like
Yeah.
there were trainers.
That's
and
a
stuff.
negative
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I like totally forgot that.
I mean,
And
my
ha-
biggest negative, and I guess it goes with, I mean, this is kind of petty, but whatever, it's my negative. And I guess this is a spoiler alert for OC with Detective Pikachu would be that the whole point where his father is Ryan Reynolds, and his father was fused with Detective Pikachu. And I'm just curious, how did he not know his father's voice? Because they kind of prove when the person was fused to Mewtwo, like they can hear the voice of the person.
There are gaps in Detective Pikachu for sure.
So I was just kind of curious to myself, like, did he forget how long was his father dead to not recognize his voice or whatever? I mean, even then, would you even forget his father's voice? Like, that was my biggest.
I don't know. If like a dog came into your life that was speaking as a human with your dad's voice, what's the first thing that would?
Well, first I wouldn't believe it, but at some point,
are you in there?
Especially with the whole story being about figuring out his father.
He didn't say he was his dad. Also, he was like, "I'm Detective Pikachu."
I know that, but the point is, it's like the voice sounds like my father. You didn't think at one point, like,
at least
you sound familiar.
At least mention it.
Does your father have an accent?
So that's why I was kind of like, what?
Does your father have an accent, Chuku?
My father, even if my father doesn't have an accent, I'd still recognize my father's voice.
Okay, I don't know why I'm even playing devil's advocate. This is pretty ridiculous.
Like, I'm being real. I would recognize my father's voice, even if somebody sounds just like my father. I'd be like, hey, you sound just like my father. You know,
a little dog is just like Chuku. Yeah,
I would be
Dad?
like, yeah, I would. I'd be like, you sound like Dad. I'll be real. So that was sort of something that
strange.
It wasn't. I guess you can say it's a little petty, but part of me was kind of like that. Kind of killed my suspense of disbelief a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The movie's got to make sense, and
It is, but then also we can say Sonic. I also have gripes with that as well. With in terms of like, oh my God, I'm trying to get into it. Like, there's small things in terms where, like, for example, the one scene where they had to get the rings, and Sonic in the beginning of the movie, you see Sonic running up the wall.
That was a big.
But then for some reason, I'm like, why does Sonic not just run up the wall and get the rings?
They have to use the elevator,
and then they have to use the elevator. And I get it; it was supposed to be for a joke. But I'm just thinking to myself, like, okay, why did they have to do that?
I think that's what we were all thinking. Because I was like, okay, they're here. And then he's like, how do I get up there? And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Well,
what do you mean?
That's the thing with speedsters, right? There's always some logic.
Oh, the logic of speed. There's no logic of speed in this movie at all. Like, it's definitely, like, that's another thing, like, the kids aspect of it.
Yeah.
Is, like, he runs from, like, the middle of America to the Pacific Ocean and back in, like, 2 seconds. But then also he's like testing his speed at the beginning and it's clocked at 300 miles per hour. So what's going on here?
Yeah, exactly.
And also he
got some flash situations.
Right.
It's
It's riddled with that.
There's
no consistency.
I guess it's like they have to find ways to heighten the tension, because if you think about Sonic's power, like, he could very easily be OP. But then the reason he like can't get the rings back is because he's like, I can't tell north from south from east from west, and I don't know what directions are.
Yeah.
And he like has to rely on James Marsden to drive him in a truck to California.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's pretty strange. And it's like, because it's like you are thinking like, you can run over there in like 2 seconds, and he does, and he comes back and he's like, I'm cold. I need you to drive me there because I was just in the ocean.
Yeah, and then especially with the theme being that he's lonely, I've always was like, okay, there's other worlds that they show that he, like, other than the mushroom, because he always says I have to go to the mushroom. I was like, well, there's other worlds there. Could he have gone to those other worlds and see if there's like aliens? Like, there was questions. Again, it's a kids film, but there was questions like that where I was just like, it kind of took me out of the film.
There could have been better writing to like make him say like, "Oh, I love humans," or not
like
just James Marsden's character, because that would have been sweeter.
Right,
also.
Which brings it to the thing of this: the strength of this movie is not the plot. The
Definitely.
strength of the Sonic movie is not the plot.
Yeah,
at all. It was mostly in the character of Sonic and Dr. Robotnik. Like, those two made the movie for me, and I think for most people. Is why it made it so enjoyable to watch.
I think that makes it maybe stand a little bit above Detective Pikachu, because Detective Pikachu also didn't have a memorable antagonist. It didn't have a memorable villain. We don't even know who the villain is throughout the movie. Like, we think there's a little bit of a misdirection of like who you think the villain is.
Ditto.
And it's Ditto. Actually, you should watch it.
Yeah.
And so, but in this one, it establishes Jim Carrey's Eggman very early on, and it's like a fun character to just own the evilness.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean,
strong
it's
casting
tough
choice,
because it's like, this is definitely a battle between like character versus like plot. Because I feel like Detective Pikachu's plot is more interesting. It's more.
It is.
It's more. It's more. It makes you curious of like this mystery because it's a
Yeah.
mystery thing.
I
but-
agree. It had kind of like a cool concept of
Yeah.
like what the bad guy was trying to
Yeah.
do. Whereas like I know you said like the ending scene in Sonic was like very video gamey. I thought that I was kind of like waiting for that to like end because I'm like, this is really predictable. He's
yeah.
gonna
I was sitting in it. I was loving it.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's just gonna like
Yeah.
run on Eggman
He
and
actually
send
is.
him away. Like
He
I
is.
knew it was gonna happen. It was
Uh-huh.
fun to
Yeah.
watch, but it was like I just want to get to like the jokes again.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. See, so it's like, yeah, the plot, and then obviously the world building, and I felt, I don't know, in Detective Pikachu, I felt more like I was in an adventure. So like, it was more something I want to be part of. While Sonic, I felt like I was just like, oh, these were enjoyable characters. So it's like,
Mhm.
I guess this is a
Agreed.
debate on like which one you prefer,
Which genre?
or genre, or even the way it's executed. Because even then, because it's like you can make the argument, and I'm still split because part of me wants to say Sonic based off biases, but at the same time, the more I think about Sonic, and then the more I think about film theory, I'd go towards Detective Pikachu, even though I don't really connect to the characters as much. So it's like I'm split when it comes to this.
I like Detective Pikachu, but I feel like some of the things I like might be different from what the general audience likes because they introduce so much in Detective Pikachu, even though they rein it in by not including trainer battles or Team Rocket or anything like that. They like I loved seeing all the different Pokemon and all the powers they have, but I think for like maybe some parents who are like not familiar with it, it might be too much. It's a lot. Like seeing all the different Pokemon, it's like the next scene is like, oh, there's another one. Like fuck, like I don't know. It's another one like just totally making things more complicated for Justice Smith.
What's
and
the
his Detective Pikachu?
out of curiosity, is there a potential chance for Shadow and other people to come in?
In Sonic, I don't see Shadow because Shadow's story is pretty dark.
Yeah.
Like it's too dark for
It's too dark?
it's too dark for what they've set up.
I wouldn't rule it out.
It could
I wouldn't rule it
possibly
out.
work.
It would clash with the Sonic or the movie aesthetic, not the Sonic. It would clash with the movie that we saw, but I also wouldn't rule it out completely just because they could take the approach of 2 or 3 movies down, like say it's 5 or 10 years later. The audience that was young when this movie came out has grown up and they're like teenagers now. They can handle a Shadow.
It's
Oh,
like
man, we'll be old.
Deathly Hollows
Yeah. Yeah,
versus
exactly.
Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah, they could
type
do
of
that.
thing.
Yeah,
They could
yeah,
do
yeah.
that. They could
But
do that.
I think, and I hope they don't do this, but if they do introduce him sooner than that, it could be like kind of a watered down version with a different kind of story or
I
history.
would hate
That would be bad,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's not
just-
impossible
I
for them
mean,
to do
I guess
that.
I'm just like a Sonic Adventure 2
I see
fanboy.
that you grew up. That was what made me funny enough. That was this because I used to not like Sonic until I played the adventure games. So that was the thing that got me attached
Yeah.
to Sonic. But see, that's another problem I had with the Sonic, where I feel like that would have been perfect lore, especially with Dr. Robotnik. Because if he mentioned that, oh, I had a grandfather who was also a great genius, there you go. That's Shadow's story right there. So they could have set that up, and they didn't have to give too much detail about that. But again, they weren't really. I mean, I don't want to say they weren't paying attention to the fan base, or whatever, but they didn't go that way of the lore. They just did little subtle things.
Yeah, I see.
So
Maybe that's the reason they felt like they had to do those design changes because they were like, if they see this Sonic in this film, we're gonna get crucified because it
true.
would be so far from anything like
relating to Sonic.
true to Sonic.
Although, speaking about the Adventure series, they do go to San Francisco. So I was wondering, were they trying to hit an adventure-related thing? Because that's
Like
the big thing in San Francisco.
City Escape?
Well, Cityscape is basically San Francisco. So
the first
I think
stage?
so. I
Yeah.
think so. I
So-
think the Easter eggs aren't obvious in this one.
yeah,
But
so
they're there.
it's tough. And then again, I don't know. I feel going back to Detective Pikachu and Sonic, I feel like Sonic did a little bit more better with its video game references, a lot more than Detective Pikachu. Although Detective Pikachu, I feel like because of the anime, there's the anime more adaptation
Yeah.
towards it. But a Detective Pikachu, I felt more like I was into the world, the lore, and I felt like it was a little bit.
Yeah. Pokemon
more-
is so much more than a game.
Yeah,
Whereas
game.
Sonic is a game.
Yeah.
Mostly a game.
So it's
Couldn't even be considered a video game movie.
Yeah.
Detective Pikachu, because Pokemon is a huge franchise with lots of different mediums.
Yeah, but Sonic also has like a bunch of different games too.
That's true, and it's a comic
Yeah.
book series.
Yeah,
as
I would love
well.
to see a Sonic's Black Knight movie or something.
There's no way they're going to do that.
Probably not.
They're never going to do that. I think that's too.
It's
That's far fetched, and the fan base hated the.
the game.
Yeah,
I like the game.
I like the game too, but it's part of the what they call the dark ages of Sonic. Off my curiosity, since you two haven't seen the other movie, what would you guys think about the other movie? Hearing about it, so like, would you hearing Detective Pikachu? Do you still think it'd be more better than Sonic? And hearing Detective Pikachu, I mean, hearing Sonic, would you think it's better than Detective
Hard
Pikachu?
to say.
So
Yeah.
start based off what we've said.
Based off what you've said, so I primarily consider my own enjoyment of the film.
Okay.
And because of that, I think that because I enjoyed the character of Sonic and Jim Carrey's Eggman so much, I would probably still go with that one over Detective Pikachu. Just because like the story of Detective Pikachu doesn't seem all that groundbreaking to me.
That's
and
fair enough.
If that's the strong point of the movie, then I don't know if I would necessarily.
That is
care
fair
too
enough.
much.
You're like kind of connecting with the people over the world building
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah.
And I can
That's
relate
fair
to
enough.
I have no idea. I need to
still-
watch the movie,
You
man.
still need to watch a movie.
Yeah, from what everyone's saying, it's not the Sonic I want.
Well,
but-
I feel like you'll enjoy it. It's still the
Okay.
Sonic. It's again. It's like when the Flash started becoming Flash, and not the Flash from the CW, but just in comics. Like what's to say, Flash got his powers.
Okay.
You know, he may not be as cocky, but I mean, he's cocky, but he's not as confident. There you go. That's the best way to describe it. He's cocky, but he's not as confident.
But he's also not annoying as I thought he would be, like from the trailers and everything. Like he's very, I don't know.
They did a good job
he's
of
endearing.
empathizing with him.
Yeah,
Again,
he's endearing.
his big theme here is that Sonic's lonely. So a lot of his narcissistic tendencies comes from the fact that he doesn't have people around him,
I think
which
either
is a good way
yeah.
to
Okay.
empathize him as a character.
Yeah, I honestly cannot judge something I have not watched.
Okay, fair enough.
So, I mean, based on what you're saying, I'll say this: I'm very interested in watching the movie. now.
Exactly.
I'm like more
Do
interested.
it. Do it. I think either way, like I'm really happy that it has all this success, and even Detective Pikachu, I would consider a success.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely. It's success.
on a smaller scale.
Success.
But this means that studios are going to be open to more video game movies because there hasn't been too many hits in the past. Like we said, Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. Just,
Tron
like,
kind
imagine
of
if
was. I don't
Assassin's
know.
Creed was directed by Christopher Nolan. Like, you think that movie's still
That'd
not
be
going to be
interesting.
great? Like, I think that there could have been.
or his brother.
I
'Cause his brother
suppose.
created,
Yeah.
what's it called? Westworld, right? I feel like Westworld and Assassin's
Really?
Creed can work really
Right. No, yeah, that's
Aspect.
actually a good. Like, there's. Because
It'd be cool.
the general scheme, like, it's kind of similar to. As far as like the Animus and in Inception, that
Yeah.
machine that lets them go back into the dream
Yeah.
world,
Yeah.
where they're able to play around with that aspect in Westworld, where they are able to physically go from like the real world and then transport you into this this theme park
Yeah.
world type thing. They're able to play around with that and do a good job and make a good story mostly.
Yeah, I think definitely as far as this goes with these two movies, Detective Pikachu and Sonic, Detective Pikachu does well with the cinematography, the way the world building, and I think that was the whole marketing too. That was just trying to market us to this world, while Sonic was trying to market us to these characters. So I guess again, it's based off subjective bias. I guess overall, I mean, maybe again, I don't know. It's because of the way Sonic is. I'm probably might like what you said about enjoyment. I did enjoy Sonic more than Detective Pikachu, so I guess that has a. I guess I would have to go it for that as the best, or why I think it could deserve the best video game movie so far. But I don't know. Maybe I'll rewatch Detective Pikachu or rewatch Sonic again and change my opinion later.
I'm the same way. I mean, I had a little more nostalgia for Detective Pikachu or Pokemon in general, but Sonic really surprised me with how enjoyable it was and how much I kind of connected with the characters. I really love Sonic now. Like it was a cool film, and I think I enjoyed it a little more.